Welcome back, you beautiful souls, for part one of What If Kenichi Adopted Naruto. This is the second episode in the Demon Child and a New Family. The title of this episode is Battle at the Gate. So where we last left off, Mio and Kenichi had just stopped Naruto from, in their minds, getting killed. But, well, getting roughed up and everything. So as the guys run off, Mio comes walking up to the young boy. And the Naruto said he has no family. And right as he finishes saying that, he kind of passes out. And Mio kind of catches him and notices that he has a bunch of cuts and bruises, like on his face and like his arms and body. She then proceeds to look at her husband, Kenichi, and Kenichi looks at Mew and says one phrase: "Are you sure, love?" Mew then rebuttals to him, "You know we must." Kenichi thinks to himself, "Sorry, guy. Sorry, Lord Third." At this, Kenichi grabs Naruto and cradles him, and in an instant they kind of disappear, but a few of the Ambu that had been following them, they're all shut, like most of them can't even recognize what had happened. But the couple that did know, like, the direction they were heading to, told one of the other ones to go tell the Lord Hokage about this. So the fastest among them heads to the Hokage's office and mansion and everything. So a few seconds and everything passes, and the Ambu Ninja burst into the Hokage's office. Lord Third! Lord Third! Bad news! Ninetales is being stolen! In unison, Lord Third, Guy, and Kakashi say, "What?" And then the Ronin, the Ambu Ninja, then says, "The Ronin, they're heading to the South Gate with the Ninetales Jinchuriki." Guy, Kakashi, go! Stop the deaths! So, at this point, basically, Kenichi and Mio have basically had it set in their minds that they need to get this boy out of this area because he is obviously the one they call demon, like the demon child, but in their mind, he's just a little kid. Like he's a fucking kid. Like he's a small child. And they just can't comprehend why people would treat a child like this. So we cut to the South Gate, and Kenichi says, "Mio, you know, taking him made them our enemy. Yes, but look at him." "I know, Mio." A couple minutes pass by, and the Ambu are giving chase to the pair and the Ninetales Jinchuriki. But Mio and Kenichi don't know the whole thing about the Ninetales and everything, because it wasn't really explained to them, because the Ninetales Jinchuriki is a guarded secret of the Leaf Village. Pretty much only like pretty much like the village knows about it and everything, but Kenichi and Mew don't. And quite frankly, it really wouldn't change much about their choice to do this, because Kenichi is already, he's a little irk that people are picking on a little kid because it reminds him of his childhood, and the caring nature of Mew One moment, I have a door knock. Sorry about that. So I believe, yeah, I was right there. So basically, Miyu is her caring nature. After seeing like the cuts and bruises and like some of the scars that are on Naruto's like chest and everything, she's mad. Like she's infuriated, and basically the both of them have the mentality: the hell with these people in this damn village. Because if they're going to treat a child like this isn't a place that they want to raise their own kid. Kind of thing. That's what's going on in their mind. So back to our story. Kenichi basically says this to Miyu, and Kenichi says, I know, Miyu. As they arrive at the gate, dozens, and I mean dozens of ninja are already there. And all of them yell, "You're not leaving here alive with the 9 towns!" And hundreds of shuriken begin to fly at the pair. So as like ninjas begin to like come and like attack them, both Miyu and Kenichi knock all of the shurikens away, and a few of the ninja that had actually come in to attack them, and they land. Immediately, and I mean immediately as they land outside the gate, they're completely surrounded. And the battle ensues. Kenichi, basically still cradling Naruto with one hand and basically kind of wiping the floor with a couple of the ninja. And then he sees something that really infuriates him. He sees Miyu bleeding. And at the sight of this, he yells out, "Miyu!" as he tosses the unconscious Naruto to her. She catches him and lands, and as she lands, everyone begins to stop as they feel the ground begin to rumble. And all their heads turn to Kenichi, and everyone can hear Miyu scream, "Kenichi, no!" And a few of them are stuck in fear because Kenichi's eyes go yellow, like they start glowing yellow, and ninjas begin to drop left and right. A few of them, like a few body parts, begin to fly, like a leg here, an arm there. And a few of them are knocked back with like bones being broken. And eventually Guy and Kakashi arrive at the scene and just see Kenichi just wiping the floor with some of their top ninja, like in the village, and they're shocked. At this point, Miyu like just runs up to her, and before Kenichi like kind of hits her, like his fist stops right in her face, and he kind of grabs her and then turns around and see Guy and this new guy. Kakashi begins to rush at them, and Guy just stops him, and then he yells out at Kenichi. He's like, "I thought you weren't a threat to our village. I guess not. I guess this is what you were at all the time, to steal the 9-tails Jinchuriki from the hidden leaf." At this, Kenichi yells out, "We're not stealing anything. How this child is being treated? You guys treat him like dirt. You call him a demon child, he's just a child. We just prevented him from being killed. He's been bruised, he's been beaten. What have you people been doing?" At that, Guy is just stuck and mortified, and so is Kakashi. Like, they both kind of realize that these two don't know what the 9-tails is. And before the Anbu can, like, pretty much assassinate them, Kakashi uses his... God, one moment. I lost my place in my notes. Kakashi activates the Sharingan in his left eye and then proceeds to use Shadow Clone Jutsu. And he stops all of the Anbu from attacking the two. And this catches Kenichi's eye, and he's still in a defensive state. And they're just kind of standing off, and this proceeds back and forth where they're kind of yelling at each other. And then eventually, the Lord Third, the third Hokage of the Hidden Leaf Village, arrives to the scene. And he tells all the ninja to stand down, and they all, like, back off. He approaches the two, and he says, "You two, I've been watching you two, like, on my way here through, like, the crystal ball that he has in canon." And he says, "There's a lot that we must discuss, but please, stop all of this madness. There's no reason for anyone to be killed." And Kenichi then, like, drops his guard. At that, a shuriken comes flying at them, and the Lord Third grabs it and then throws it back at the source, which was an Anbu ninja, and impales the ninja in his eye, dropping him dead. And then the Hokage looks back at Kenichi, like, with the eyes, like, "See, I mean you no harm. Please, just calm down and let's talk this out." And Kenichi, like, with a grimace look on his face, like that could kill someone, says, "Fine, but make it quick. If we don't like what we hear, we're out of here, and you're not going to stop us. You've already hurt my wife, and your people have hurt this child." So the Hokage begins to explain about the Nine Tails, and Mio and Kenichi are just shocked at this, and they look down at Naruto, who's beginning to gain consciousness, and he looks around and he sees all the ninja kind of standing in an attack formation, and these two just kind of holding him in between the two of them. And he looks up at them and he's like, "What are you two doing?" And Mio just kind of brushes his hair and says, "Don't worry about it. No matter what, we're going to take care of you from now on. No matter what these people think." And Kenichi says, "Yes." And at this, the Hokage asks Kenichi to come back to, like, his office. And Kenichi says, under one condition. He looks over at Guy and he says, "Those two only. Any Anbu, any other ninja, and you're dead." This was kind of a bluff on Kenichi, because when Miu, like, screamed out to him no, like, Kenichi literally was about to break his oath of not killing. Like, he was that infuriated. Not only did these people hurt a child, but they hurt his wife, the woman that is carrying his own child. So yeah, I don't think anyone would fault Kenichi from going postal and killing people. He did maim a few of them, like taking their arms off and completely shattering, like, their sternums, breaking their jaws, and completely rupturing a few of their eyes. And a few of the Anbu, so back to our story, a few of the Anbu begin to protest, and The Hokage looks at them and tells them, like, look, if these two wanted to kill us, we would all be dead. You see what they did? This is 50 plus of our best ninjas in the village. And they were taking them out like it was cake. If these two truly wanted to kill us, there's nothing I fear even I would be able to do against them. And this kind of shocks everyone that is standing there, and they all grimacely comply. And then Kenichi, like, kind of tells Hokage, is like, sorry for hurting your men. And he begins to, like, jump, and he begins to, like, fall. Mia catches him, and he says, thanks, love. As the Hokage orders the Anbu and the able-bodied ninja, albeit, like, bruised and battered, to carry the ones that are mangled and injured and in a near-death state to get some medical treatment. So Guy and Kakashi's looking at this pair with extreme suspicion, and Guy's just looking at, giving Kenichi looks here and there, and kind of like the look of, like, damn, I'm sorry kind of thing. And because Kenichi's Fujin style, he's able to read what's in someone's heart. And he didn't feel any falsehoods in Guy or the Hokage's words when they were speaking to him. But he is a little concerned about the ninja with that red eye. But Kenichi is not dumb. Like, this is an older Kenichi than what was in Kenichi, the Mightiest Disciple. So he has a little bit more life experience and can really tell when someone's bullshitting him or not. So they make it back to the Hokage's office, and one of the Anbu begin to come walking in, and the Hokage just looks at him. And the Anbu, like, says, my apologies, Lord Third. As Kakashi, like, and Guy enter behind Lord Third after the two with Naruto still in Miyu's hands, like arms. Because he is kind of, like, passed out again, and she has him resting on her chest, like, kind of cradling like you would a child, like a baby. And the two proceed to, like, stand there, and the Lord Hokage then explains that 3 years ago, this child's parents sealed a nine-tailed beast, and he explains what the nine-tailed beasts are. At this point, Kenichi looks at Miu, and she gives him the look that it's okay. So Kenichi then explains, like, Lord Third, you said 3 years ago they performed this sealing technique. And then Kenichi is looking off in the distance, and the Hokage then says, what is it, young man? Because Kenichi is still a young man compared to the Lord Third, the third Hokage. Because the Hokage, from what I can tell, is like 45 plus, like he's an old man. So he's at least 45. So he has at least 20 plus years on Kenichi. And Kenichi looks at him and he's like, he turns and looks at Guy and Kakashi, and then he turns back to the Lord Third, and he's like, can these two keep a secret? And this is when Lord Third turns to both Kakashi and Guy and tells them that everything that's about to be discussed consider it a Leaf Village classified information. Basically stating, like, this does not leave this room, because Kenichi has a very serious look on his face. He then proceeds to explain to them that 3 years ago is when they came to this world. And the Hokage's like, what do you mean by this world? And Kenichi explains to them that he comes from a world called Earth, from a country called Japan. And 3 years ago, he looks at Miyu, and then he looks back at the Hokage, and he says, me and my wife, we were enveloped in this weird energy, like this, and it felt like we were being pulled somewhere. We woke up 3 years ago in your world, and, well, we're not a part of this world. We don't belong to this world. We weren't born here. And Kakashi, Guy, and are shocked about this, and then the Hokage is looking at the two pair with a concerned look. And this is when Kenichi asks, is like, is it by any chance that we could have been pulled to this planet because of that ceremony? And the Hokage, like, ponders this for a few moments, and then he rebuttals. It's like, I'm not sure, but why exactly were you leaving with the child? And Kenichi, like, Guy, like, speaks up at this, and he's like, Lord Third, if I may, I think I know where they're coming from. And he begins to explain that from how he thinks how they were behaving and what he yelled at them, they were just concerned for the child's safety. And this is when the Hokage begins to smile, and he tells the two he apologizes for this whole misunderstanding, and that he has a request. He tells them that he will try to find a way to send them back to their world. And he asks them to, as he's looking at the two, as Miyu's kind of rubbing Naruto's head, and he sees like some of the scratches and stuff begin to heal, as he sees Miyu's hands kind of glowing a little bit, and this kind of shocks him, and he's like, huh, so I guess you two have already decided. And Kenichi's like, what do you mean? And the Hokage says, I guess you two have decided to take care of that one. So, that's good. Here's my offer. I guarantee your guys' safety. And if anyone attacks you, they will have to deal with me. They will be punished to the most extreme that our village will handle. Like that one that attacked you after I told them to stand down. And he looks at Kakashi and he says, and that will be your job. Anyone attack this family that is part of our village, it's a death sentence. And this shocks Miyu, and even more so Kenichi, because Kenichi knows that this isn't a lie, and this isn't something that he's saying very lightly, because he can feel that the Hokage's heavy heart when he says this. And then he says, I'm sorry, I realize my faults. I realize I could have done more for this child. And this is when Kakashi speaks up. He's like, he asks the two, he's like, are you serious? Are you serious about taking care of him? Taking care of my old sensei's child? And they look at Kakashi and they're like, what? And then Kakashi explains that Minato was one of his old teachers, and one of the senior ninjas that kind of trained him. So after a couple of hours, the four exit, and all the Anbu are standing there. And the Lord Hokage tells them that these three are not to be touched by anyone. If anyone attacks them, it's a death sentence, and you are an enemy of the Leaf Village. The two have agreed to stay, and if the Ninetales ever goes on a rampage again, they have sworn a vow to stop it. And so a few days pass, and Naruto awakens in his house, and he sees a familiar face looking at him with tears in her eyes. And he's like, what are you doing in my house? And this is when Miu kind of grabs him and hugs him, and she says, you're finally awake. And Kenichi comes walking into the room, and he says, good, you're finally awake. We've been worried about you. And Naruto says, why? What's going on? And the two explain to him that he asked him if he remembers getting attacked, and he says yes. And then I remember you two holding me with a bunch of people looking like they were going to kill us. And this is when Kenichi puts his hands on the young Naruto and says, young man, your parents aren't in the picture, right? And Naruto looks down. Yeah, I don't know them. I've been on my own. I mean, Lord Third has had attendants taking care of me, but they always look at me like something's wrong with me. And Miu then says, kind of embraces him again and says, there's nothing wrong with you. And this is when Miu steps back, and Naruto sees the look on their eyes, and Naruto's like, why are you guys treating me so nicely? I mean, everyone in the village besides Lord Third and a few of the other ninja in the village look at me in disgust. And Kenichi and Miu state is like, you're just a child. There's nothing wrong with you, and we have something to ask you. Would you want us to be your parents? We know you don't know us, but they both look at him and say in unison, we promise that you won't ever be alone again, and as long as we're around, you won't ever be hurt again. And Naruto sees the look in their eyes, in their faces, and he can tell that they're really, he's not entirely sure, but he asks them, it's like, are you sure? People here don't like me. And this is when Kenichi kind of chuckles a little bit, and Miu smacks him in the back of the head, and Kenichi's like, Miu. And Kenichi then looks at Naruto, and he says, I don't think that's going to be a problem. I don't think people of this village are gonna like us anyway. After what he looks down and then looks back up at Naruto after what I did a couple of days ago. And Naruto, he begins to cry because these are the first two people that have shown him like true kindness. Like, yeah, the Lord Third has been nice to him, and a few of the upper ninja in the village have been nice to them, but the like outside of the Hokage, these are the only two people that have the eyes of looking at him that don't have a look of disgust. And he says, "Do you really mean that you'll be my papa and mama?" And both Miu and Kenichi look at him and say yes. And this is when Naruto like kind of starts crying and launches at them, like kind of grabbing both of them and hugging them. And Miu kind of steps away, like grasping at her stomach. And Naruto's like, you didn't mean it. And then Kenichi says, no, you just almost hurt, as he's pointing to Miu's belly. And Naruto looks down and he's like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. And Miu says, it's fine, you just... And that's another thing. Young Naruto, right? That's what the Hokage told us your name was. We are about to have our own child. And Naruto looks at Kenichi and then looks at Miu and then gets down and then says, I guess after your own kid's going to is here, you'll love them more than you would me. And this is when Kenichi picks him back up and then kind of gives him a little bit of a knuckle sandwich, kind of forcefully rubbing his knuckles on the top of his head, and tells him that you've had it rough, huh? There's something that you're going to learn about us too. When we say we're going to do something, we're going to do it. Even if we have our own, even if we have more children in the future, you're still going to be. As he looks at Miu, who begins to kind of tear up a little bit, and he looks back at Naruto and is like, "You're still going to be our son, regardless if you're our blood or not. You're still a child that we care about, regardless of how you came into our life, young Naruto. From here on out, you're definitely not alone. And look at this. You're going to have a little brother or a little sister. And in a little bit. And Naruto's, like, a smile kind of cracks on Naruto's face, and he says, really? You two really mean that? And Miu walks over and hugs him and then kisses him on his forehead and says, definitely, we'll always be there for you, Naruto. In that moment, Naruto gets a kiss on his forehead. Something inside of him begins to stir. Like, it's kind of like a memory, but he can't really remember it. He just remembers this warmth. Like, and he doesn't know what it's from, but he just feels like this is right. This, like, and everything. So I'm going to end this part here, but with a little bit of a backstory. Basically, what Naruto is remembering is when his mother, Kushina, was like, because Naruto wasn't a newborn when they did this. he was a couple of months old. So he's just remembering a mother's embrace, because Miyu and Kenichi at this point are wholly invested in taking care of this child. Now, many of you who know what Kenichi and Miyu are from, Kenichi the Mightiest Disciple, yes, Miyu and Kenichi will train young Naruto in martial arts that they know, and also Miyu will teach Naruto meditation. And because of their travels throughout the past 3 years, they have picked up certain jutsus, but they've kind of figured out a different way of using them. And Miyu's healing jutsu, if you want to call it, isn't on par of isn't on the level of a medical ninja's skill level. It's for scrapes and bruises. Like if you get cut by a branch or something that's you get whacked in the face with, or you get some scuff marks. Like if a child falls and they get a bloody knee, she can kind of heal it up without ointments and stuff like that. But not minor injuries. Like more serious wounds, yeah, she'll use the medical knowledge that she knows, because Miyu at this point had spent, so I'm gonna say, I can't really remember how old they were in the last chapter of the manga for Kenichi the Mightiest Disciple. So I'm gonna say they're a couple of years younger than Might Guy and Kakashi. So that being said, that brings me to my next point. So their child, this is metagaming, the characters within the story don't know this, but in The Mightiest Disciple, Kenichi and Miyu will have a daughter. In one moment while I find the name, because I had it written down in my book. So everything that is said about their daughter is an unnamed. There's very little information except for her association ties and family ties, and the fact that she exists. There's no age. There's nothing about her age. There's nothing about her looks outside of a picture that was on Kenichi's desk at the end of the last chapter. So there's really not much of information about this character, so that gives us a lot of leeway with this character. Though there is one thing that is clear. It is a girl. So with another, from a viewer on Discord, I had a conversation with, that kind of helped me grasp and set up this story and kind of contemplate the first arc, The Demon Child and a New Family, which The Demon Child and a New Family will cover all the way up until the Chunin exams. And then the Chunin exams until the end of the Chunin exams will be its own separate arc from this one. So the War Bridge arc will be in this, but that may end up being only a 2 or 3 episode arc. This series is going to be more slice of life compared to my other what ifs, just for the simple fact that the sheer amount of lore and world building that happened in Naruto, I can really develop the character's personality and really work on Naruto's interactions with starting to be trained in martial arts in meditation by Kenichi and Miyu. So back to their daughter. Her name, the viewer gave me the name Hana. Well, a couple of names, and we decided on Hana. So her name will be Hana Shirahama. And it roughly translates, and I decided on the meaning of flower of the coast. So it's Hana Shirahama, flower of the coast, in like quotation marks. And she will have chakra, but she'll also learn about ki as well. So she'll have kind of like a mixture of the two. Because I'm gonna say the Fujin style, when Kenichi uses or Neo uses the high end forms of that they learned from Miyu's grandfather, this is going to be what is called their dojutsu, like their family jutsu, kind of like the Uchiha's Sharingan and the Uzumaki's like extreme chakra stamina reserves and stuff like that. Like this is going to be like their family trait, combined with Kenichi's ability to get stronger faster than a normal human being, because even in the Mightiest Disciples, he kind of shocked the masters at the dojo with how fast he progressed. So that being said, this is going to be the end of this part. Like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already done so, and let me know in the comment sections what you think of this part. That being said, I will see you beautiful souls in the next video. Oh, one moment, I also forgot to add something onto this. So I want to give a shout out to Chad Lewis, because it had been many years since I read the manga / watched the first series, so I wasn't quite sure on the special missions. It can be 1 to 5, so I'm gonna say it was 4 Jonin level ninja that had been tasked to go after Miyu and Kenichi in part 0. That being said, this is truly, see you in the next video.